the Bays team is live on air once a week to give you your environmental update on your country, our beautiful Bahama land. Join us on Voice of the Bays radio show each Wednesday on Love 97 from 5 to 6 p.m. to hear the latest news on our 700 islands in the sun. Call in and let your voice be heard during the show. Calling from Nassau, dial 326-8255. Calling in from Freeport, use 351-6175. You can also listen to the show streaming online.
Let's save the Bays.
The content of Voice of the Bays radio show is the property of Save the Bays, Coalition to Protect Clifton Bay, and is intended for general information purposes only. The views expressed by the show hosts or their guests are their own, and not that of Love 97. To learn more about Save the Bays, please visit their website at www.savethebays.bs or find them on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or YouTube. Our thanks, Bahamas, for your support.
Rise up, Bahamas, let your voices blaze. Stand up, Bahamas, come on, let's save the Bays. Clifton Bay, save it. Breakers Bay, save it. Liberty Bay, save it. Let's save the Bays. Rise up, Bahamas, let your voices blaze. Stand up, Bahamas, come on, let's save the Bays. God gave us this land, and this land we must save. Stand up, Bahamas, come on, let's save the Bays. Our coalition's forming to stand up for what's right, to protect our Bahamas, and we're prepared to fight. Protecting our waters, protecting our land. Stop destroying our beaches and keeping all our sand. God gave us this land, and this land we must protect. So when I say save it, why should you object? We must protect the fauna, we must protect the flora. We must save it for our kids for a better tomorrow. Rise up, Bahamas, let your voices blaze. Stand up, Bahamas, come on, let's save the Bays. God gave us this land, and this land we must save. Stand up, Bahamas, come on, let's save the Bays. Woo! Yes! Come on, let's go!
Rise up, Bahamas. Let your voice be heard. Come on, let's save the Bays.
Rise up, Bahamas.
Come on, neither Asan. You listen to Voice of the Bays. The environment speaks. And if you know me or you know Fred Smith, we speak very loudly when it comes to this precious land that has been bequeathed to us by the Creator. And we are here to make sure that future generations will have the same rights that we have with respect to our land and seas, our beaches, our waters, our fish, all of those magnificent aspects that made the Bahamas a unique place on planet Earth. Now, I have a very special guest here this evening, but I want to make a few introductory remarks, and you can call us at any point. Please, we're not going to take any foolishness because, you know, we're about serious stuff in this country. But you could call us from Freeport 351-6175 or in Nassau 326-8255. The topic this evening is entitled Corrupt and Scandalous Giveaway of the Heritage of Our Future Generations. Let me repeat that. The scandalous and corrupt giveaway of the heritage of future generations in the archipelagic nation of the Bahamas. Now, you know, Fred Smith and I are very political, but we're not siding with any political party. You know, the meaning of politics is taking care of the city, and it has very little to do with FNM, PLP, etc. I have voted, and all these people, every time the PLP is in power, they said I'm an FNM, and the FNM power is on PLP. All of that nonsense, that is horse fodder. That is a bunch of foolishness. I am not here to kowtow to any political entity in this country, be it PLP, FNM, DNA, or whatever new parties are coming up in the future, because we had two major parties, political parties, FNM and PLP. I have voted for both, because I vote generally according to my conscience and for the individual that I feel has the best interests of this country at heart. So don't ever label me FNM or PLP. I have registered to vote, and I'm looking at the candidates. And if they don't have the best interests of the country, I'm not going to vote for any of them. So let's get that straight. And we know, for example, Fred Smith, I'll introduce you in a minute. We know that the Bahamas is made up of 100,000 square miles of water, ocean. And that also includes some lakes and swamps and wetlands, etc. In that, there is only 6,200 square miles of land. 6,200 out of 100,000 square miles of water. Now, by the end of this century, it is predicted that we will lose, Fred Smith, 80% of our dry land. 80%. That, you know what that would leave us? About 496 square miles of dry land, which is about half the size of Grand Bahama. Now, that is not coming from Joe Davel. That is from the scientists, geologists, and even your Prime Minister, Perry Gladstone Christie, has indicated that over and over again, that due to climate change, sea level rise, we're going to lose 80% of our land space by the end of this century. So what do we pass on to future generations? What will they have? Fred, I just wanted to mention something here. Do you know that when the savages came and invaded the U.S., I'm not talking about the native Indians. They were not the savages. The Europeans, the English, and those other crews that came from abroad, they were the savages. They came and dispossessed the people of what they had. Do you know that the Indians, the native people, did not have any sense of ownership of the land? They know, in fact, they could move around, roam wherever they like, because they know that the planet was there for a period of time to service them, and that they were to pass it on to future generations.
And all other beings that were there.
Exactly. So at this point, I just wanted to give those couple ideas out there. And I want, Fred Smith has been working with this, trying to prevent not just the PLP, but the F&M. In fact, beginning with the F&M, prevent them from giving away for almost nothing the prime real estate in this country, particularly on our beautiful little keys and islands. And so he is the expert in this in terms of what has happened and what is happening now and what needs not to happen. And I want to put a challenge out there to PLPs and F&M. Tell the people what you're going to do in order to preserve the lands and the heritage for future generations. Fred, give us a kind of background, how you got involved in all of this to do with trying to prevent the government from just selling off to God knows whom or how much land to people who had no real interest in our country.
Thank you, Joe. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much, Joe. And you put it in perspective, 6,000 square miles compared to over 100,000 square miles of water. So, Joe, land in the Bahamas is like oil in Alaska or Saudi Arabia or Texas. Oil is a precious and unique commodity in the Bahamas. And how we know this is because there's so little of it, and so it's so desirable. And even within that 6,000 square miles, there's only a very small part of that that's actually usable, because, as you say, a lot of it is wetland, a lot of it is marshland, a lot of it is on the coast and cannot be used. And so there are only a few habitable islands, the bigger ones, and lots of smaller ones. And the reason we know how valuable our land is reflected in the extent to which thousands and thousands of foreign people who we invite and welcome to be here,
sure.
not against foreigners, to be able to, who want to come and want to buy private islands, private keys. They want to develop Albany. They want to develop Gin. They want to develop Mayaguana. They want to develop the beautiful keys in the Exumas. They want to develop all over Abaco. They want to develop Guana Key. They want to develop Winding Bay. They want to develop Lyford Key. All of these beautiful, unique pieces of our land, most foreigners who are affluent and who are wealthy are flocking and have been flocking to the Bahamas for decades. You see, this sale of our land isn't something new. This goes back to the 1950s, the 1960s, the 70s, the 80s, and I take my hat off to people like A.D. Hanna and Alfie Maycock and Sir Lyndon Pindling and Loftus Roker and Sir Clement Maynard, and a lot of them who had the foresight to pass the Immovable Property Act, acquisition by foreign persons legislation, and also to the FNM subsequently that amended that and created the International Persons Landholding Act, all of which was designed and reflected the value to be placed by Bahamians on their land, on their future. And so 80% of the land still in the Bahamas. I think that figure is correct. I invite anyone to call in to correct it. The head of the Department of Lands and Surveys may be able to correct it. But between 60 and 80% of the land that remains in the Bahamas that is not in private hands is called Crown land. Mm-hmm. And so the government, which is the trustee, in fact, Section 54 of the Conveyancing and Law of Property Act says that the Prime Minister holds Crown land in trust for the benefit of Bahamians. They use it Bahama Island, Bahama lands, etc. But the essence of it is that our government is the trustee, holds the land not for the benefit of anybody in government, but for the benefit of you and me and Sam Duncombe and KB and Romy Ferreira and Paco Nunez and Gail Woon and Sarah Kirkby and Diane Phillips and you know, Troy Albury, all of us who are, I'm naming these people, directors of Save the Bays, because all of us, C.B. Moss, all these people who have been involved in trying to protect Crown land have a sense of the value of it. And where we've come unstuck is this investment construct in the Bahamas. It's very odd. So, you know, I went to Bimini the other day to swim with the great hammerhead migration. You know, few people know this, but the Bahamas hosts one of the few places in the world, and Bimini is one of the 3 places, where for about 4 months, literally hundreds of thousands of great hammerhead sharks migrate through our waters. And so, Joe, I was down there swimming, and actually I was stroking some of these 16, 17, 18-foot prehistoric underwater monsters. Their skin is so soft and satiny and silky and smooth, so nice. Anyway, hundreds of these mega sharks under the water. But
do you know he fell asleep for half an hour down at the bottom with these sharks all around him?
I ran out of air. I nearly died. But no, it's professional courtesy. I had no problem down there. You know, my sharks were good to me. But anyway, so in Bimini, you had the government approving and promoting the development in northern Bimini, which involved a casino, a Hilton hotel, marinas, beautiful houses and everything. But then you had Alistown and Porgy Bay, all these little the old Bahamian settlements, looking unfortunately like ghettos. Yeah, no infrastructure, the roads all beat up, everybody trying to squeeze through them. Houses all broken up and looking as if, you know, they're crack houses, and many. This is not an insult to the people of Bimini.
Oh, no, not
the point
at all.
Bimini has a lot to offer. Beautiful. The people were wonderful. I met some of the pastors there. Talked to plenty of people. The guys on the crew on the the boats. I absolutely enjoyed it and loved it. But the problem is, our politicians, both FNM and PLP, are unimaginative, myopic, short-sighted, and actually quite ignorant about investment in the Bahamas. They're stuck in some old antediluvian mindset, which doesn't understand that bringing a casino or bringing a hotel or bringing real estate development to a locale such as Bimini really doesn't do very much for the community. Yeah, it gives a couple of boys a couple of jobs to pick up towels on the beach. Yeah, it gives people to be housekeepers and maids. Yeah, it gives a couple of the golf cart operators in Alistown the ability to rent a couple of golf carts. Yes, you can go and fish up some conch, make some conch salad, and sell a few during the day, or fish. Yes, a couple of the small restaurants and bars in Bimini are going to make a couple of dollars. But I want to say to my Bahamian brothers and sisters, that is peanuts. Those are scraps. Those are the kind of little shiny baubles and little pieces of plastic that the Portuguese or the Spanish or the English or the French used to give to the Amerindians, who we killed all of them off, or to the Americans up in North America. Used to land, give them a little knife or give them a scissor, and they would give you gold, and they would give you silver, and they would give you diamonds, and they would give you all the rich ores of the New World. And so the Bahamas has the rich ore of the New World, our land. And why is it that a company comes all the way from Florida and Malaysia to open a casino, another one to open a Hilton, another one to do the marina, another one to build a $7 million cruise ship terminal out from the place. Let me come. I know you got to go.
Yeah, we're going to take a break right now. You're listening to Voice of the Bays, Environment Speaks, and our topic this afternoon, which is being covered by renowned Frederick R. Smith, QC. It's called Corrupt and Scandalous Giveaway of Our Future Generations' Heritage. And we numbers to call in Freeport. You could call there and it'd be transferred here, 351-6175. In Nassau, 326-8255. Short break. We'll be right back.
Weston Hardware, the only complete store with everything you need, specializing in a complete line of brand name power tools and accessories, lighting, electrical, plumbing, and bathroom fixtures, household supplies, and auto cleaning products. A complete paint department specializing in Valspar paints, Minmax wood finishings, and more. Our lumber and building department is fully stocked. Ask about our studs and tracks manufactured locally to your specification. Free delivery to your location and all here at Weston Hardware. Telephone 377-0058.
Visit us at www.westonhardware.net.
We're neighbors. NUA Insurance now serves the Carmichael community with our newest service center on Carmichael Road, located just east of Bahamas Faith Ministries. Let us give you a hand choosing the coverage you need from our complete line of home, auto, and business policies. With locations in Collins Avenue, Harbor Bay, Carmichael Road, as well as Georgetown, Exuma, NUA Insurance is the most convenient choice for all your insurance needs. Call us today, 302-9100, for friendly professional advice. NUA Insurance, the hands-on insurance agency.
Rise up Bahamas and let your voices blaze.
Bahamas, your Save the Bays team is live on air once a week to give you your environmental update on your country, our beautiful Bahama land. Join us on Voice of the Bays radio show each Wednesday on Love 97 from 5 to 6 p.m. to hear the latest news on our 700 islands in the sun.
Welcome back to Voice of the Bays, the Environment Speaks. And our topic this afternoon is Corrupt and Scandalous Giveaway of the Heritage of Future Generations in terms of what is happening to the lands in our loving Bahama land. And my special guest this evening, Frederick R. Smith, QC, who has been fighting the battle against PLP and F&M for years to make sure that they become sensible, sensitized, intelligent with respect to what needs to be done to preserve our lands, which at the end of the century will only be about 6,200 square miles. Well, no, that's what it is now. It's going to be probably dropped down to less than 1,000 over the next 50 years or so. And so we're not concerned about ourselves. I got my little piece of land on which my house is built, and I have a little plot in Long Island on the hills, and we're going to be talking about hills in the Bahamas. Those will become essentially important for the preservation of the lives of our people, Frederick Smith, in the future, and also boat building. So I'm not going to talk any longer. We're live out of Nassau, so you can call us here, 326-8255 for any comments. I know that some of you are angry at the department which is distributing Crown land. I've spoken to dozens of you, and you said, please, Mr. Dowell, talk again about Crown land. I have applied for years and years. I did not even get the courtesy of a response. I have a number of people, however, who did get a response. They got a response 20 years ago, but yet, after they call month after month, no decision made on their application for a couple acres of Crown land in Cat Island. Frederick.
Thank you.
Smith.
Let me just continue with the thought before I lose it. I'm getting old now, John. I can't remember things too much. So, you go back to Bimini as the example. So, in other countries, when someone invests in or develops a casino, or develops a hotel, or develops public infrastructure, such as a cruise port facility, or develops marinas, that feeds into the economy and helps to grow the local economy. Now, the investment construct that we have in the Bahamas is perversely the complete opposite. Let me explain why. The casino that operates in Bimini doesn't pay taxes to a local authority. So the Bimini District Council doesn't get any money to spend on infrastructural or other health, medical, educational, or infrastructural improvement for the community. A hotel like the Hilton that invests $5, $10, $15 million to build it doesn't pay any taxes to the local Bimini District Council. So the District Council, the FNM passed that stupid Local Government Act. And I want to take my hat off to my cousin George Smith in the PLP. I don't know why I ever became FNM. My whole family used to be PLP. My dad used to drink with A.D. Hanna and Alfie Maycock and all the rest. I don't know how I became FNM. God forbid, not PLP, FNM. Anyway, so, how is it that an act was passed, a local government act, that doesn't allow local governments in the Family Islands to pass any laws for local bylaws, doesn't allow them to tax or to raise money for local improvements or developments, and doesn't pass any regulations for enforcement? So you have a complete neutered, toothless tiger as, for instance, the Bimini District Council. It goes for all the district councils, all right? So you have now a hotel, a Hilton hotel. Now let's pause and just segue away from that. Every Russian, Jamaican, Barbadian, American, Brazilian, Canadian can invest in on the New York Stock Exchange in the Hilton hotel chain if it's a public company. Whereas no Bahamian in Bimini or in the rest of the Bahamas where the hotel exists can invest in our own future and promote the prosperity and success of that hotel. And so the taxes from that hotel go to central government. The taxes from the casino go to central government. The local government doesn't get anything from these people. Not only that, the government has allowed Hilton and the casino and the development company that built this sort of Disney World environment. When you go through those gates in northern Bimini, you go to a Disney World environment. It's like you're not in the Bahamas anymore. From the local settlement into this other world. So at the government dock between South Bimini and North Bimini, right? They have a ferry that goes directly to the casino and the marina and northern Bimini and completely bypasses the local community. So the construct of our development in the Bahamas is that all these foreign companies, all of whom are traded generally on the foreign stock exchanges, and anyone in the world can buy into them, even though we give away our crown land. In Guanakee, for instance, the government gave away 1 acre of crown land on the beach to the Discovery Bay Company from California. $1 an acre, which they were reselling for millions of dollars an acre. So no Bahamian could get any of that. And so you have a situation where our government enters into secret heads of agreements, anchor project deals, PLP and FNM. This is not an attack on the PLP. Both FNM and the PLP do this, in which they have signed secret agreements with what's called the National Economic Council, negotiated by some advisor to some prime minister, and they give away crown land for almost nothing, or they let them dredge the marshlands or the mangroves. So they create, if you go to North Bimini next to this casino, they have acres and acres created on the inside there, where they're building all these houses. So they get our crown land, they get our mangrove,
our
they dredge
seabed,
it, our seabed, they dredge it up, they pay a minuscule royalty, then they sell it for millions on per acre. And so that investment profile allows no Bahamian to own, for instance, any shares in the Port Authority, any shares in Hutchison Whampoa, any shares in Carnival Cruise Lines or Royal Caribbean, any shares in Sun International at on Paradise Island, none of the shares in Albany, none of the shares in the Lyford Key Development Company. So all of the companies that invest in the Bahamas, all of whom are traded on public stock exchanges elsewhere, and all of whom can have any Tom, Dick, and Harry from all over the world owning the shares. We Bahamians, because of exchange control, can't own any of those shares. Yes, there's a little bit of liberalization going, but we should get rid of it.
I just saw that.
But that's child's play. But effectively, because of the Bahamianization policy, because of the national investment policies, because of all the secret deals that they cut because we have no freedom of information, the anchor projects, the heads of agreements. Look at this with this China Bahamar. We don't even know who's buying it.
No.
And we don't know. So they get, how much did they give away our crown land at Bahamar to the Chinese or to Ismailan or whoever else it was? I don't mind the idea. Stop. I don't mind the idea of crown land being used as a raw material to promote development, but I don't want secret deals in which crown land gets given away and someone gets to rent 5 shops or 10 shops in some development owned by the foreigners, and or they get all the commissions on the real estate and the sales of all the lots in the development or all the condominiums. I wonder who owns the development or the real estate company at the point down where the Sheraton British Colonial is. Who's getting all the commissions on the real estate sales? And situations are created where architects...
Is that a mystery? Undoubtedly it has to be someone connected politically.
It's the son of one of our PLP cabinet ministers.
Yeah, that's exactly what happens. Where there's FNM and PLP.
Correct.
And that is the corruption.
Correct.
And that is the scandalous.
And the basis of all of this corruption, none of this can happen unless they give crown land away in Winding Bay, or unless they give crown land away in Albany, or unless they give crown land away at Bahamar, or unless they give crown land away in Mayaguana, or unless they give crown land away in Grand Bahama, or unless they give crown land away in in Guana Key, or unless they give crown land away at Blackbeard's Key, or unless they give crown land away throughout the Bahamas. So it is the foundation of much of the corruption that exists in the Bahamas is based upon the raw material, the gold, the oil that belongs to all Bahamians. So my fellow Bahamians, this afternoon, when I told somebody I was coming on this radio station, and I mentioned this to this lady, she says, "Oh, I applied for Crown land when I was a fetus. She says, my mother applied for Crown land for me. And she said, in addition, I have 3 children, and years ago I applied for Crown land, a couple of acres in one of the family islands, so they could have something for their future. Can you imagine, Joe, if every Bahamian, there's only 365,000 of us or thereabouts, and about 180-some thousand adults. Can you imagine that if, just like they did in the land rush in Oklahoma, or they did it in Utah, or the federal lands, Crown land is like federal land in the United States. It is a resource owned by the government. Sorry, it is a resource held by the government in trust for the people of the country.
Amen.
And it doesn't belong to the Queen. The Queen of England don't want any of our crown. She has her beautiful land in England. So our government treats Crown land as if it's some kind of thing that belongs to the F&M cabinet ministers or the PLP cabinet ministers. And they decide what to do with it secretly. And they decide whether to give it to their PLP supporters or the F&M supporters, or back in the day, the UBP supporters. I mean, this is why the heads of agreements, this is why you can't, the Allison Maynard Gibson, Jerome Fitzgerald, Fred Mitchell, Obie Wilchcombe, Perry Christie, all of these people are secretly hiding from the Bahamian people the details of the agreement they entered into at Bahamar. This is why none of them go to Parliament and put on the table before they sign the deal. No sense in coming to the Bahamian people after they done signed the deal and say, this is the deal we've arranged, and say, oh, we're disclosing it now. Before the FNM or before the PLP sign any of these anchor project heads of agreements in which they're going to give away stamp duty, in which they're going to give away customs duty, in which they're going to give away VAT, in which they're going to give away a business license tax, in which they're going to give concessions on casino license and tax and fees, and here's the crux, before they agree to give away 1 square foot of your crown land and my crown land, they should be going to Parliament and saying, ladies and gentlemen of the Bahamas, my fellow Bahamian citizens, you voted us in here. You have trust in us to be honest with you. This is a development that we propose to do. This is what we propose to lease or to sell or to give away in order to promote development within our country. This is how it's going to benefit us. Here's an economic impact study showing the prosperity that will come from this. Here's an environmental impact study, shows how it's going to affect the environment. We've talked to the environmentalists and made certain changes to accommodate this. No, nothing is perfect. We have to have development in the Bahamas to create jobs. We have to have investment from foreigners and give some concessions to create economic opportunities. All of these are reasonable things. Save the bays, save Guanakee Reef, re-earth, responsible development for Abaco. None of the organizations that we work with, the community partners of Save the Bays, ever say no to investment or development. All we say is, before you decide to give away what ain't yours, come to the people who own it, who are entitled to it, who you hold it in trust for, and have a discussion with us about how it will affect us economically, how it will affect our tax base, how it will affect job opportunities, how it will affect our marine environment, how it's going to affect our forests, how it will affect our clean air. Before you sign some damn agreement with some foreign company who don't know what they're doing at the dump in Harold Road, you put it out to bid and you have some kind of transparency and accountability so that everyone who owns a piece, everyone who owns a share in the future of the Bahamas, and that is every child, every woman, every man, adult, or young person that has a stake in the future of the Bahamas. You politicians, and by damn, I hope the PLP are kicked out in mass in this election, and I hope a lot of FNM comes in, and I hope that the FNM and or the DNA who come in, I want to hold a torch to every damn toe of every damn politician sitting in cabinet and sitting in parliament, whether it's PLP, FNM, or DNA, for them to understand that there is a new day dawning in the Bahamas, and that is when the politicians recognize that they're not in there to profit themselves. How is it that these people who go in there with an annual income of $40,000 a year, 5 years later, 10 years later, have a net asset value of $20 million and have bank accounts in California, or have bank accounts in the Cayman Islands, or have bank accounts in Panama,
Switzerland?
So, my fellow Bahamians, you know, as Joe said, we are very political because we wish to change the Bahamas for the better, but we are not partisan. Yes, I support the FNM now. Joe May, you know, he flip-flops. He supports the PLP, he supports the FNM.
No, I support a particular individual. If it happens to be a PLP or FNM, so be it.
But we must all, in order for a democracy to exist, in order to protect our future, in order for us to have the dignity to which we are entitled as citizens of this country, the people who are running our affairs must be terrified of the population reacting to them when they abuse their power. And Crown land is the foundation of the future of the Bahamas. Yeah. It is what Christie, H.G. Christie, it is what Sahari Oaks, it is what the Simonettes, it is what Bradley Roberts, it is what Frankie Wilson, it's what the Port Authority, it's what all these Bahamian and foreign companies have been selling from under your feet for the last 60, 70 years. Crown land and land in the Bahamas is the oil, it is the gold, the diamonds, the silver of the Bahamas. And Bahamians and foreigners recognize its value. And that is why you have hundreds, if not thousands, of applications being made regularly by Bahamians for Crown land. Yeah. And that's why it's such a scarce commodity. The politicians use it as a victimization stick, as a favoritism stick, because victimization can go both ways. Victimization can be, I could treat you bad, or I could give you something. And so that's how, by us allowing the politicians in both the FNM and the PLP to abuse us, they continue to lord over us as if they own us.
Yeah, well, just a couple of things, Fred, while you take a little rest. I was very distressed the other day when someone right here in Nassau came up to me and admitted that a particular development on this island in which people are now suffering was put where it's put because of what they anticipated those people would suffer, and that the land on which their community was built actually was Crown land given to a political entity. My God, how could we be so corrupt that we can subject our people to the possibility of dying of cancer, breathing in filth, our tender lungs of our children being saturated with poison, the combination of all sorts of fumes, etc., and we could sleep at night? Fred, I want to get, I know we need another hour to be on the show, but the fact is that the dispossession of our people in this country is what is breeding the violence. Our people have no sense of ownership. Since we're talking about ownership in the land, What are our young people? We are still, and I'm not even going to, just give me 1 second. I'm not even going to apologize for this, because I want the people to go on Bahamas Weekly and read my article on the state of rights in the Bahamas in 2017. And within that, I quote, and let me quote particularly, our leaders have so subjected psychologically our people that we are nothing more than chattel, we are nothing more than slaves, and as I said, and I don't apologize, we are treated like black niggers on a plantation. I'm going to end there and go to a break, but I want you to think about that. Tell me how free you are to know anything that is significant for your development in this country, and are you still a slave? You listen to the voice of the bays, the environment speaks. And as you can see, we speak for God's creation, this wonderful land that has been given to us, that we're striving to preserve it, some of it for future generations, because it belongs to our children, to the future. We're simply borrowing it from them. We'll take a short break and be right back.
Looking for furniture with style and elegance without forfeiting comfort? Well, you need to look at Donald's Furniture. Donald's Furniture and Appliance Center, home of the Credit Connection, located 6 Terrace, Centerville, will provide just what you're looking for. Furniture with comfort, style, elegance, and stunning good looks. And the lowest prices on the island. Easy credit terms available. Stop in or call us at 322-1731 or 322-3875. Donald's Furniture and Appliance Center. Comfort, elegance, and style.
Forget the jitters you get from that caffeine-loaded cup of coffee. Introducing Zen Edge. Yes, Zen Edge. It's not your typical energy drink. Oh no, Zen Edge is an awesome new energy drink that tastes great. It's not like those other drinks with that medicine aftertaste. Without the jitters, without the crash. No bull. It's what's inside that counts. It's the all-new Zen Edge energy drink. Pick up a can today at your local retailer. Try Zen Edge.
Rise up, Bahamas, let your voices blaze.
Bahamas, your Save the Bays team is live on air once a week to give you your environmental update on your country, our beautiful Bahama land. Join us on Voice of the Bays radio show each Wednesday on Love 97 from 5 to 6 p.m. to hear the latest news on our 700 islands in the sun. Call in and let your voice be heard during the show. Calling from Nassau, dial 326-8255. Calling in from Freeport, use 351-6175. You can also listen to the show streaming online.
Welcome back to Voice of the Bays, Environment Speaks. And we've been just chastised by the owner of the station. There's no cussing on this. Is Dam a cuss?
No, I don't think Dam is a cuss, man. We ain't swear on this. We don't swear. Nothing that we've said on this show.
No, I mean, that's why I always feel safe when I'm next to Fred Smith, because I know there will be nothing that he says is liable. But okay, Fred, let's continue. But let's get one example that bothers me very much, because we went diving. I think it was a year and a half ago, at this particular place in Abaco. Yeah. And 7 years prior to that, I dove in the same area, and the difference was absolutely nightmarish.
Yeah. I wonder, Joe, how many cabinet ministers, if Fred Mitchell, Obie Wilchcombe, Glennis Martin, Hannah,
even the Prime Minister, has they ever gone underwater?
I wonder if their toes have ever touched seawater. Or Fred Mitchell, I invite you, my friend, to come diving with me. Come scuba diving.
Not with the sharks
with
now.
The sharks, man. Come dive with me with the hammerheads in Bimini. In fact, I want Obie Wilchcombe, who headed the giveaway, the Crown Land giveaway in Bimini, to come see what he gave away, our heritage. Anyway, Joe, to give an example, Guana Key. Many of you may have heard of Guana Key. It's a small little key in the northern Abacos, and it is one of the most beautiful places on earth. It has a long line of hills along the middle. It has the wetlands on the Sea of Abaco side, and it has the Atlantic Ocean on the oceans at the northeast side, and ringed along the Atlantic side are beautiful reef, and as you go out past them, they cascade down. It's almost they cascade down hundreds of feet, And the dolphins and the whales and the turtles and the sharks and the groupers. Troy Olbrey, who's the head of Save Guanakee Reef, I mean, he has pet groupers that he goes out there and feeds when you go down. Big, huge suckers. And, the sharks come cruising in, and the sea fans and the brain coral. There's just so much beautiful, people don't realize that much of the beauty of the Bahamas is actually underwater. And we have to realize that, human beings aren't the be-all and end-all of sentient existence in our world.
Amen.
We have so many of our fellow sentient beings underwater, living in an environment that is otherworldly, that you can't even conceive it. But going back to our crown land, in Guanakee, we have been waging a battle with both the FNM and the PLP, both of whom, I have to say, have been utterly disgraceful and treacherous to their Bahamian citizens. They have given away crown land in Guanakee at $1 an acre on the beach. So on the northern side of Guanakee, they've given it all away to this California Discovery Bay company. And on the southern side of Guanakee, they've given it away to another company. I think it's Orchid Bay Development Company. And so what has happened is that the black and white Bahamian population that has lived in Guanakee for hundreds of years and has organically grown in symbiosis with a lot of foreigners who come and build one house or two houses, a little bed and breakfast. And so that we have carpenters, we have fishermen, we have utility service providers, we have boat captains, there's a beautiful community that has grown for many years symbiotically with small proportionate development. All of a sudden, that community, that it has nowhere left to go anywhere. The community of Guanakee, the Bahamian community, is now locked in a foreign vice grip in which there's a gated community. Were you there? They wouldn't let us in.
They
wouldn't let us in.
We went in nonetheless.
They brought armed guards to prevent Joseph Dam Darville and Fred Dam Smith couldn't go into Guanakee, into Baker's Bay. And then on the southern side at Orchid Bay, there's another gate. So Bahamians aren't locked out of gated communities anymore in Guanakee. Bahamians are locked down in Guanakee, the settlement of Guanakee. So Bahamians in Guanakee have become prisoners in their own country. The most beautiful parts of Guanakee now having been given away by the corrupt politicians to Baker's Bay and to Orchid's Bay for a pittance. So Crown land doesn't only mean ownership in land. It means, as former Chief Justice and President of the Court of Appeal, when she gave her decision on Guanakee, Dame Joan Sawyer said, what is happening in Guanakee is also affecting the constitutional right of Bahamians to move freely in their own country.
Well, Fred Smith, you remember when we went to Guanakee, Baker's Bay, when we attempted to go through, they stopped us. And they actually called the guards, the manager, who all rushed down there. But nonetheless, we did a symbolic invasion. We went in probably about 300 feet, and they didn't touch us. Because what did you tell them? The same government road that came from the area where Bahamians can tread upon ran straight through, and therefore that as we would call it, that was still the King's Road.
So how many people want to go and cause trouble when they go driving out? And nobody wants to. That's only me and you want to do things like that.
Yeah. But the fact is that this fear that has gripped my people, it makes me sad. And remember, if you read that article, the Bahamas Weekly, go in there and look at that, because I go all the way back to the time of the Israelites. when they were trying to flee enslavement, they could not subject themselves any longer to the enslavement in Egypt. And they started out. It took them 40 years, but they knew where they were going. But because they were still mentally enslaved, they could not reach the promised land. And as I said in there, if you have a mentality or consciousness of enslavement, you cannot own the promised land. And so in the Bahamas, unless we can get rid of this fear that grips us in the guts and holds us tight to people who control us, and as I said, our leaders, unfortunately, and they have inherited it from our white slave masters,
But it's not only
but
that.
they have fine-tuned it to an art where they know you psychically, and they know what it is that can get you, whether it's going to be quotation from the Bible.
Black majority rule, Joe, has brought more discrimination, persecution, and victimization than the UBP white oligarchy or the British colonial civil service that used to run us. And these examples are, for instance, with Omar Archer and Maria Daxon, that I got, both of them are now not in jail. And Maria Daxon, she has challenged her criminal libel charge. And today, that charge was dismissed as a result of us filing a constitutional motion challenging the constitutionality of criminal libel in the Bahamas. These are old colonial laws used throughout the British Commonwealth to keep the damn natives in check. They don't have these laws in much of the rest of the British
they don't anymore.
And Omar Archer, although there were warrants out for his arrest in relation to other things, there are thousands of warrants out for people. Why they pick on him? Because he stood outside the Prime Minister's house and said, OPM, you own some property, this apartment over in this Cable Beach business, a condominium. So an element of anxiety, fear, scariness, self-editing. You walk around in a shadow. I grew up in Haiti under the dictatorship of Papa Doc. I won't keep telling you all that. I'm a Bahamian, but I was born and raised in Haiti. I'm a Bahamian. So the stuff you all are going through now.
Tell them where your father's from.
My father's from Nicholstown, Andros, born there, family from Exuma, grandmother from Sims, Long Island, all the rest of that. But the problem is that we in the Bahamas are suffering from this invisible, subtle, victimized. It's not so subtle in many cases.
No, it isn't subtle.
But there's a lot of this. We're pretending to be a Westminster model democracy. We're pretending to have members of parliament. We're pretending to have three branches of government: executive, judiciary, and legislative, that act as a check and balance. None of that, except for the judiciary, thank God. But when you have a small country where you have only 38 members of parliament, or 37 members of parliament, and the cabinet, the executive, is composed of nearly 90% of the majority party. The legislature, the parliament, never acts as a check on the executive.
No.
They do the bidding of the executive because they want to be appointed to cabinet, get to be appointed chairman of the hotel corporation, or get some kind of favor from the office of the prime minister. So what we've created in the Bahamas is this prime ministerial dictatorship, whether it's under Perry Christie, Hubert Ingram, or Solinden Oscar Pindling.
Fred, hold 1 second. We have a call on the line. Yes, go ahead.
Yes, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yes, and good afternoon to your partner.
Thank you.
Your Richard. This is Amos. Amos J. Miller, the Hebrew Israelite. And you mentioned something about in the show, and I'm enjoying the show like everyone else, by the way. You mentioned in the show a few minutes ago about the Israelites and when they were and how long they took in the wilderness.
Yes.
You see, I'm one of those Bahamians who, thanks to the Chapter 3 of the Constitution and Article 15, who not just believe, who knows that I am one of the descendants of those same Hebrew Israelite people you're talking about.
The Israelites.
Yes.
Oh, okay, fine. Yeah, go ahead. Speak more to that.
Context, because, we like...
So, do you have the freed soul, like the Israelites when they entered the promised land, that they had gotten rid of all the vestiges of enslavement?
You see, and that is... that's why I told you I'm enjoying your show.
Uh-huh.
You see that same brother who say he grew up in Haiti?
Yeah.
And say he's a Bahamian?
Yeah.
I'm proud of him speaking like this.
Yeah, well, he has no fear, neither do I. No one can harm us until the Almighty God wants to bring us home. So we will speak what needs to be spoken. I am not, I'm 75 years old.
Wow.
And I'm not afraid of dying. So, they kill me, I'll come back and haunt the hell out of them.
But I just want, brother, you see that same young man who talking?
Uh-huh.
Him and brothers like you have influence. See?
Yeah. I grew up in Long Island, and I know my rights. I have always fought for the. In fact, even from a little boy, I knew what my mission was in life, and that is to defend the rights of other people.
I'm on a cell phone. I need you.
Okay, all right. Thank you for calling. God bless you. You're a great Israelite. Maintain that freedom, my brother.
The Bahamas. Teach the Bahamian people not just the Constitution, but the Universal Declaration of the Bahamas.
Amen. Thank you for calling.
This is of the Bahamas of the world, Universal Declaration of Human Rights. That's a universal document as it relates to fundamental rights and freedom that the Bahamian people have been deprived from all government. And that is what I would want to see the next prime minister, no matter who they are, recognize that the technology we're dealing with today, it does not matter what your last name is. What matters is honesty, integrity, and truth.
Thank you, my brother. And go online on Bahamas Weekly and read my long dissertation, beginning with that story to Israelites, coming right up to the present moment, and what is happening to my beloved people. Thank you.
Bahamas Weekly.
The BahamasWeekly.com, online.
Online. Okay.
Yeah, okay. Thank you for calling. Good evening.
For the opportunity.
Okay, thank you. Okay, some final words, Magnificent Fred. You got 2 minutes left. You're not out of, I know you might be out of breath, but you're certainly not out of incredible knowledge, understanding of where this country. Let's give some little advice to people with respect to how could they insist that they get the crown land that they so deserve.
It's bigger than the crown land, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I know.
The issue is inculcating a mindset in our fellow citizens to always ask why.
Why? Amen.
Instead of simply accepting that whatever this demagogic politician says is the biblical truth. And so, yes, the black nationalists led us out of Egypt and gave us independence, and we became an independent Bahamian nation. But that doesn't mean that forever and ever we have to pay obeisance and we have to worship at the feet of our politicians, be they PLP or FNM. Remember that we as citizens we own this country. The little cabinet and the 40 members of parliament don't own it. So own your voice, people of the Bahamas, and vote them out.
Voice of the Bays, the environment speaks. You crack me up. Whatever prime minister, we're going to hold their feet to the fire. Whichever government takes over this country in a matter of weeks, month or so, we're going to hold their feet to the fire. So we're not going any place. God spare my life up to 70. He must gonna give me about 5 more years. I feel good. I feel wonderful. I love my country. I love my people. What more can I want? All of you demons who try to come at me and put all that crap out there about what we're doing, our motivation. I know we got to get up there right now because I know Mr. Jones has his radio program, but he's always stealing a few minutes from me so I can take. No, I'm kidding. Okay, thank you, Skibbo. Fred, thank you for being on this show.
Thank you very much,
Always
Phil.
a
Thank
great
you,
pleasure. Information, excitement, passion. Good night, everyone. Voice of the Bays back in 1 week.
Well done, Joe.
Okay.
That was fun.
Bahamas, let your voices blaze.
Bahamas, your Save the Bays team is live on air once a week to give you your environmental update on your country, our beautiful Bahama land. Join us on Voice of the Bays radio show each Wednesday on Love 97 from 5 to 6 p.m. to hear the latest news on our 700 islands in the sun. Call in and let your voice be heard during the show. Calling from Nassau, dial 326-8255. Calling in from Freeport, use 351-6175. You can also listen to the show streaming online.
Rise up, Bahamas, let your voices blaze.
Bahamas, your Save the Bays team is live on air once a week to give you your environmental update on your country, our beautiful Bahama land. Join us on Voice of the Bays radio show each Wednesday on Love 97 from 5 to 6 p.m. to hear the latest news on our 700 islands in the sun. Call in and let your voice be heard during the show. Calling from Nassau, dial 326-8255. Calling in from Freeport, use 351-6175. You can also listen to the show streaming online.